Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So if you are watching this, the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs are now in the books. The Winnipeg Jets have overcome a 3-1 lead, tied it up with like 1.4 seconds left, and then they won in overtime. The overtime goal, it hasn't happened as I'm recording this. I'm filming this during the overtime intermission. The last intermission period, I filmed the Blues version of this video, but we are going to be going through what were the most disappointing, ranking the most disappointing first round exits in this year's playoffs. Winnipeg not going to be on this list because they won, and this is going to be based on how the series actually went. Did teams blow leads in the third period? Were they expected to win the series? Were they expected to go on a deep Stanley Cup run? What did they do at the deadline rental-wise? Give up a bunch of picks and prospects for rental guys that didn't really do much, and as a result, they have a worse future. And also just what's the age of their core? With certain teams have a core of like 29 to 33. This might have been their best shot with their respective core remaining. So without further ado, let's get into it. And up first, no surprise here, we got the Montreal Canadiens. When looking at them, it was already a smashing success once they made the playoffs for the most part. After that dominant Four Nations run, we knew that there was a bunch of problems with this team, if we're going to be honest, maybe a little bit of lack of depth. The defense core was very much slacking, and once Sam Montembeault went down in the series, they definitely had a chance, especially when we thought Thompson might not be playing in this series, as well as Protas came back later in it. Thompson came back immediately and dominated. But yeah, for Montreal, successful season. Let's move on to number 7. And at number 7, I'm going to go with the Ottawa Senators. When looking at them, it's slightly disappointing, even though, again, like Montreal, an overwhelming success season, considering they made the playoffs. But unfortunately, having to play their provincial rival, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and especially losing Game 2 and Game 3 in overtime, you thought maybe if one of those flip and we have a 2-2 series, a 2-2 tied 2-2 after Game 4, maybe we win 2 out of the next 3. It's slightly underwhelming. It's just unfortunate. If they played someone else, it probably wouldn't be that disappointing. But yeah, Ullmark kind of sold the first 3 games of the season or series. But going forward, still a bright future in Ottawa. You're not worrying about it too much. Next up in 6th, I have the St. Louis Blues. Now, if they lost in Game 6, if they lost in Game 7 in like a traditional fashion, I would probably have them 7th. But blowing a 3-1 lead with 2 minutes left, a 3-2 lead with 1.4 seconds left, yeah, that's going to put you in 6th. Still, again, like those other first 2 teams, successful season making the playoffs. But you were so goddamn close to getting to that second round, and you just let up a late goal. Hellebuck plays so bad against you, and you cannot get it done. Even in those first 2 games, you had a decent chance to have it eventually not go to 7 games. So, yeah, it's underwhelming. It is definitely underwhelming for the St. Louis Blues in this series, in the final game for the most part, but overall, a successful season. Next up, the New Jersey Devils, another team where it's not that much of a disappointment. If you said before the season that they were going to, or even mid-season that they were going to lose to Carolina in 5 games, that would be a big disappointment. But when you factor in the context of losing Jack Hughes, once he got hurt, their cup chances basically went out the window. And once they lost Luke Hughes and Brendan Dillon in that first game and just got dominated in the first game, they did bounce back to a decent degree. And Markstrom played well, but yeah, they never really stood a chance once they were dealing with all these injuries against such a physical two-way team like the Carolina Hurricanes. Still some disappointment because they don't have their first-round pick from the Markstrom trade this summer, as well as the fact that they did give up, I believe, a second for Dumoulin and a third for Cody Glass. So you're disappointed if you're New Jersey, but like I said, with the prior 3 teams, getting back in the playoffs still makes it somewhat of a successful season. We're jumping up a bit of a tier here. In the 4th slot, we have the Minnesota Wild. And when looking at this, in the series, they were up 2-1, 2-1 games, and up 2-1 in that third period of Game 4. You thought they're going to take a 3-1 lead. They just need one more. They're actually going to beat the Vegas Golden Knights. Bad clear for Middleton, I think, on the game-tying goal. Boldy on the game-winning goal, or maybe it was reversed on that. Very underwhelming. In that Game 6, Gustav Nyquist, your one deadline acquisition for a second-round pick, goes offsides on the Ryan Hartman goal. Absolutely insane. Very disappointing from that perspective. And also, when they were fully healthy, we knew that this team was a really good team. So, although they were a wildcard team, although they were playing a very good Vegas team, I had them beating the Vegas Golden Knights. I had a lot of wrong picks in my first round bracket. But, yeah, they definitely had a chance to beat this Vegas Golden Knights team, both talent-wise and especially the circumstances. Still a bright future for the Minnesota Wild, but yeah, this is objectively disappointing, especially given how the series exactly went. Next up in third, give me the Tampa Bay Lightning. I could see you maybe having them higher. The only problem is there is some cope regarding injuries. Bjorkstrand missed the entire series. Hagel only played like 2.5 games because of a suspension and obviously getting injured in game 4. Very disappointing way to end the series when looking at how they got eliminated, as well as the fact that Kucherov got shut down yet again against the Florida Panthers. Vasilevsky had an 872, almost at a 972. They wouldn't have lost the series. An 872 to continue his objectively lackluster playoff performances the last 3 years. 2-time Stanley Cup champ. Overall, still a great playoff performer, but that's just so overwhelming. They made so many changes this offseason to where you thought that they were yet again a true level contender, and I still think that they were to a degree. That's why they're also not so low. Florida is just such a good team. Even though I had Tampa in this series, if you said who I thought the second best team in the Eastern Conference was, I'd say it was Florida. I had them as my only 2 contenders in the Eastern Conference. So there's cope for injuries. There's cope for opponents getting kind of shafted by divisional seeding. They would have played Ottawa if it wasn't divisional seeding. So from that perspective, but their core is pretty old. It's a big disappointment, but I think that the top 2 are even more disappointing. And at number 2, I got the Los Angeles Kings. Now, this is definitely Tampa. I thought they were potentially going to go on a Stanley Cup run if they beat Florida. LA is just very circumstantial, considering the fact that Edmonton didn't have Ekholm. They were the better team. They were so good at home throughout the entire season. In the third period, blown leads. In game 1, they almost blow it. In game 3, game 4, it was a disaster. Game 2, they almost got close to blowing. It ended up winning like 7-2 or 7-4. But yeah, the fact that they just completely collapsed when it mattered most. Jim Hiller making that dumb decision to challenge that goal. It was just crazy watching them implode kind of in those third periods. I just repeated myself like 3 times, as well as Doughty, Kopitar, and Kempe. Kemper, not Kempe, all being in their mid-30s. They do still have some guys in their 20s and late 20s. But yeah, this core, man, they're just broken by the Edmonton Oilers at this point. And from that perspective, it is extremely, extremely disappointing. Didn't go all in at the deadline or something, but if you were going to beat Edmonton, it was going to be this season, and they couldn't. Stewart's going to play so bad, and Pickard even wasn't like fantastic. So yeah, Kemper played bad down the stretch as well. Very underwhelming if you're a Los Angeles Kings fan. And then at number 1, you got to go with the Colorado Avalanche. Played a Dallas Stars team without their best defenseman, without arguably their best or second best forward in Jason Robertson. They were up 2-0 in that third period of the game 7, and they go on to blow it via a Mikko Rantanen hat trick. And when you talk about doing stuff at the deadline in terms of rentals, their week of the deadline, they got Nelson, UFA, Lindgren, UFA, Coyle, 1 year at $5.25 million. So I'm not sure that he's worth that next season. VC, a 5th-round pick, and out was Richie Zellers, Middlestat, first, 2 seconds, 4th-round pick. They went ultra aggressive. Now, granted, I like the Blackwood deal a lot, and the jury's still out on the Rantanen Natchez deal when looking at that, although they're losing right now. But yeah, they went ultra aggressive, and they ended up losing to a team. Even Dallas, without those 2 guys, are probably still a top 5, top 6 team in the NHL. Like, they're just outloaded, but you definitely should have beat this team. Prior years, you didn't have Landeskog. Nichushkin left both series to enter NHL players' assistants, so you had cope there. You don't have any cope with this, and you went far more. Like the last 2 years, they didn't go that aggressive at the deadline. This year, they went ultra aggressive, and that makes them. Winnipeg probably would have been number 1 just because of their lack of playoff success overall. Colorado still has Makar and McKinnon. It's not all doom and gloom, and they have won a Stanley Cup. But yeah, this is as disappointing as it gets in terms of first-round playoff exits. But let me know in the comments. We'll run through it again. Montreal, St. Louis, Ottawa, New Jersey, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles, Colorado. I'm going to go watch the overtime now. See you in the next one. Peace.